Hello everyone, I'm Janneke. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you very much for joining me. I'm very excited to have you with me. If you're not new here, you might have noticed it's been a while since I last updated. I figured it was time to update again and to also let you know why that's been. Around 2 years ago, I started university. And at the same time, booktube basically plummeted. I do not have the energy, simply put, to do university and YouTube at the same time. But I've been really missing it. So I decided to heck with it. Let's just do it anyway. So, long story short, it's gonna be a wild ride. There's gonna be no schedule whatsoever. There's no structure. It's just gonna be whenever I have the time and the energy and the desire to do it, I'm gonna make a video. So especially lately, I have been really into watching booktube again and really into watching flosstube as well. For those who don't know, flosstube is basically, I think, the name given to the cross stitch community and the embroidery community on YouTube. I hope that's right. I'm still very new to it, so I don't know for certain that that is what it is, but I'm pretty sure that that is what flosstube is. And I've been really enjoying watching those videos as well. So I've been cross-stitching a lot while watching other booktubers as well as flosstubers. And with watching that more and more, I got the desire to make videos again more and more, because I did really love making those videos and sharing them. So as I said, I'm just gonna do it again. It's gonna be a bit different. It's gonna be a bit more laid back, so it's probably gonna be on my couch more often like this instead of in front of my bookcase, because that just takes a lot more setting up. It's probably gonna be with my front-facing camera more often than my back-facing one, again, because it's just easier. So it's gonna be, I'm gonna make it easier than I did before. It's also probably gonna be a combination of vlogs, because those are just, like I said, easy to film, and they're also fun. I think it's easier to update you on like what I'm reading and whether I'm enjoying it while I'm reading it than like afterwards, because I always struggle with remembering what I wanted to say about it. So I'm just gonna say it at the moment, immediately. That's gonna be easier and more fun, and it's probably gonna be a lot more interesting to watch me like talk enthusiastically about what I'm currently reading instead of like trying to remember back to what I read before. So it's probably gonna be a lot of vlogs as well as some fun games and tags, because I do really enjoy doing those. I think it's really fun, but those cost more time probably. I mean, tags don't really cost that much more energy or time, so probably those, but like I really enjoy those games as well, like the alphabet game where you have to find a book of every letter with it as fast as possible, and those just take a lot more time and energy. So those are still gonna be there because I love doing them, but they're gonna be less. What else is there to say? I'm not sure. Yeah, so you might have noticed, if you've been here before, this channel was previously called Bookishly Reading Me. It has been renamed to Books and Stitches because I want to make flosstube videos as well. It's going to be a combination of books and cross stitch, basically, because I've been really loving cross stitching. I've been cross stitching ever since I was a child. Like, I think the first time I cross stitched was when I was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8, and I went to like a friend's grandmother with her because her grandmother was watching her and her siblings, and I went with them. And I think her grandmother wasn't really sure what to do with like 2 girls our age, and so we cross-stitched there. I still have the project that I started there. I still have not finished it. It's a big tablecloth basically, and for the longest time I didn't have it. I just occasionally worked on it when I was at her grandmother's, and I really enjoyed it, and so I got more into cross stitch. And my mother has been cross stitching all my life as well, and all her life, I think, so that helped as well. And since then I've been doing cross stitch a lot, so I'm gonna make videos of that as well, especially with like the pandemic and everything. It's been more and more. So yeah, it's basically gonna be a combination of books and cross stitch. So don't worry if you're afraid of books, it's still definitely gonna be here. It's still gonna be heavily focused on books and reading. One thing, however, is that with university I have a lot less time to read and a lot less energy to focus on reading. So There are gonna be less books, but I figured I would update you on what I've been reading recently. And that has been, well, a lot of books for school, like for my study. I'm taking a course that's basically everything from 1550 to now, history wise, and like we've been reading a lot for that as well. But mainly like certain chapters and chunks, so I don't really want to talk about it because I haven't read the entire book. But one of the books we did read in its entirety is Frankenstein. I don't have a copy for it because we read it digitally, so I'll put a picture probably. Maybe, I mean, everyone probably knows Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Even if you haven't read the book, you've probably watched an adaptation or at least heard of it. So that has been the most recent book I finished. It was the older version. I think it was 18 something, and that is, I think, the shorter version, but also according to my professors, the better one. Do with that what you will. I have only read that one, so I can't like agree or disagree with them, but that was the one we had to read for school, and I did really enjoy it. I think I gave it 3 or 4 stars because, I mean, literature just isn't my thing, which I am studying literature, so that's kind of an issue, I guess, but I don't love literature. I don't love reading literature. I prefer to read for the fun of it, so like something that isn't too complicated. But Frankenstein is pretty good. It was definitely well written. I understand why it got so much acclaim, but it's very different from what I expected. Like, the idea I at least had with Frankenstein was like this monster, you know, this horrific monster. And it was a horror story. It's super scary. And that wasn't really it. I mean, Frankenstein is still a creature. He's definitely there. Don't worry. But it was mainly about Dr. Frankenstein and not so much the creature. And it was just a very sad novel. It was very somber. And I didn't expect that, but I did enjoy it. It was very different from what I expected. And it made more sense why it was such a literature novel, you know? Because I was kind of surprised that like something scary horror would have such acclaim in the literary world. Not that there's anything like wrong with that or not great with it, but just in my experience, most literary has been like very abstract, I guess. Like you have to like dig for the meaning and stuff. And I can sense that a lot more in the actual Frankenstein by Mary Shelley than the idea I had of it, I guess. So it's not a horror book. I mean, there's a creature, there's stuff. It's all there, but it's just mostly focused about humanity and personal, well, not growth, but like the creatures and Dr. Frankenstein's like thoughts and experiences, and it's very somber in tone. So that's very different from what I expected, but I did enjoy it. It was a pretty good book. It wasn't for me personally. I probably wouldn't have read it if it wasn't for school, but it was still a great book. And if you do under literature and you haven't read it yet, I mean, do give it a try. But I mean, I think most people who enjoy literature have either read it or like considered reading it or not, because it's a really well-known book. I have been reading for myself as well, but it's been very slow going and little. I've recently really gone into thrillers though, and mysteries. If you've been to my channel before, you might know I mainly read YA contemporary and YA romance, but lately I've really been getting into reading thrillers and mysteries. I don't have the books with me right now, so I'll just put pictures of them up probably. But it started with the book what was it called? Ferris Fowl, I think it was called. I don't remember who wrote it, so I'll like write that down as well, because like I said, I don't have the book with me right now. But I read that book and I loved it. I just could not put it down. And it's basically, without spoiling too much, a book about a girl who, I mean, I guess this is kind of a spoiler, but it's also on the back of the book basically, so I don't think it's really a spoiler. But it's about a girl in high school who gets raped. And then she, together with her friends, decide to kill all the boys who raped her. That's basically it. It's just a couple of teenage girls deciding to murder a bunch of teenage boys who are terrible people. and I loved it. I did not expect to love it as much as I did, but I loved it so much. It's incredibly well written. I I don't know if it's like the best if you know this sort of fiction, but it's very new to me as well. Thrillers and mysteries and stuff like that. I hadn't read much of that at all before. So that was really shocking to me, but I loved it so much that I like really got into thrillers and mysteries in general. Like I bought a lot of them. I haven't read them all yet because like I said, I haven't had much time to read, but I really am loving them. So after Ferris Fowl, I have read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder as well as Sadie. They're two different books, very different, but they're all both mysteries thrillers. So I'll put both of them up. A Good Girl's Guide to Murder is basically a book about a girl who has to do a project for school, and she decides to investigate the murder that took place in her little town a couple of years back, because she does not believe the police were right in who did it. So she digs in to the case and the past and tries to figure out what actually happens. And it's really fun. I don't know if fun is the right word for it, but I found it really fun to read. It's very enjoyable. It's a real mystery, I guess. It's a thriller as well. Like there's danger and everything. And I just found it really fun. I don't really have the right words to talk about it yet because I'm still so new to mystery and thrillers. So I think they're all going to sound basically the same when I try to describe them, but it's really fun. And I'm very excited to read the other books in the series and to figure out what else happens, what other mysteries she'll solve. So I already bought the next two books. I think they're, I don't remember what the second book is called, but I'll put a picture up. It's Good Girl Gone Bad, maybe? Something along those lines. And then the last book is As Good As That. I've already bought both of them. I'm very excited to read them, but I have a lot of books I want to read. So after that, like I said, I read Sadie, which is a book that I've heard a lot about on BookTube, like years back, but I never read it because, especially at the time, I just didn't read thrillers or mysteries. So I was just like, it sounds interesting, but it's not for me. It's just not what I would enjoy. I was wrong. Maybe I wasn't wrong. I don't think I would have enjoyed it at that time when it was like really popular. But when I read it now, I absolutely loved it. Sadie is basically about, it's dual perspective. It's about a girl who's gone missing and a guy who makes a podcast. So the guy basically makes a true crime podcast, I guess, investigating what happened to Sadie, the girl who has gone missing. So part of the book is in his perspective, and it's in the format of his podcast, where he tries to like figure out what happened. And the other part is in Sadie's perspective. And Sadie's little sister was murdered, like I think a year previous to the story. And she's basically trying to find who did it and murder them. Again, like Foul is Fair, Ferris Fowl, it is about a teenage girl trying to murder someone. I don't know why that is something I enjoy, but I've decided, or at least I've discovered that is very enjoyable for me to read. But Sadie was a really good book as well. I really enjoyed it. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I just know it's been really popular, so I'm sure everyone has already heard of it. And it's also been a while since I read it, so it's not like fresh on my mind anymore. But I did really enjoy it, so I will say that. I found it really like curious. I was like really curious. I was curious about what was going to happen. I kept wanting to know what was happening next. So I really enjoyed it. I loved it a lot. Yeah, that's basically it for the books I've read lately. And then I'll mention a little bit about my cross stitch. I'm not going to talk too much about that because I want to make cross stitch and booktube separate videos. So like some videos are going to be called floss tube and then a number, and those are going to be centered around my cross stitching. And then the other videos are still going to be booktube videos. But since this is like the video in which I'm going to be introducing it, I figured I'd like show you a little bit of what I've recently made, maybe make you a bit curious to see more. So this is basically the work I have been working on. I recently finished all the cross stitching in this, so that's why it looks pretty complete, because it basically is. But there's still a lot of backstitching to be done, which if you're not familiar with cross stitch, it's like the little lines like this line. I still need to do a lot of those, so that's what I'm working on right now. You can see if it'll focus, you can see a bit of it in the flower here as well. It's not the most noticeable, but I do think it makes it prettier. This is the first time I've done a work with backstitch, but yeah, so this is what I'm going to be finishing off first, and then I have a couple of other projects I'm working on and a couple I'm very excited to start, but those will all be floss tip videos. I just wanted to make you a little bit curious, and also I'm very proud of what I did, so I just wanted to share it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it and have a lovely day, everyone. Bye.